Let's place our serial number on the layout so we can see the fruits of our labors. We'll click OK, go to Layout Mode, grab our Field tool, and we're only going to put the serial number on there temporarily. There's no reason the user needs to see it, although I do sometimes do it. And we'll use Type Ahead to locate the serial number. We can put a label on if we want. If we click OK and we say, oh, now we do want a label, well, you can go ahead and double click on it later and check Create Label. And we'll get rid of the inspector. And we're going to need it to be a little bit bigger. There we go. We'll go into Browse Mode. And you notice there's no serial numbers. Why is that? If you go to any record, there's no serial number here. If we create a new record, though, we do get a serial number. That's because this is auto-entered. It only happens when you create the record. So what we have to do is populate our existing records. And we did that before with the category field where we populated it with the replace field contents step. We're going to do the same thing here. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this record. We don't need it. We're going to click down into the serial number field and then go to, and you notice replace field contents is dimmed. Let's try it on another field. It's fine there. Well, the reason it's dimmed here is because we checked that option for prohibit modification. So if we want to do this, we have to go uncheck it. If we want to put values on the existing records, we need to go in and change that. So we'll go to Manage Database. We'll go find our serial number with our Type Ahead. Go into Options. Uncheck this temporarily. And now when we click into it, we can go to the Records menu and choose Replace Field Contents. And this is what we used with our category field to put commercial on every record. We're going to use the second choice down. We want to replace with serial numbers. Now, we could start off with 2. It really doesn't matter because this is the number that the user is not really going to see. But I like to be neat and tidy, and I'm going to put a 1 here. And since we haven't attached any related records, it's no big deal if we change this unique identifier. There's nothing based on it, so we're okay to do this. So all we have to do is enter this value. It'll increment by 1. And very importantly, update serial number and entry options. This will make sure that in Manage Database that the next value in this case will be 47. Instead of number 1 being the next value, or actually it will probably be number 2 in this case, because that's what we saw here when we came in. It just grabs a value from Managed Database. We want to make sure that these two features work together, and that's how you do it. So we just hit Replace. And it's important to note that we did this on all the records showing, so you need to make sure you did a Show All Records. But you could just reserialize some records if you wanted to by performing a find. And remember, the equal sign will find all blank records in that field. So we could have done that as well. Now, if we walk through these records, we'll see that these serial numbers are all filled in here, which is great. We go all the way to the beginning, and there's a number 1. Even though we started off here, Replace Field Contents really starts off at the beginning. So let's go ahead and make sure to turn on in Manage Database that Prohibit option. So we'll use the Type Ahead again, go into Options, and we'll Prohibit Modification. Now we also want to go ahead and try in Options this on commit. And before we do that, well, we're going to change it right now, but notice that this says 47. That's because the Replace Field Contents communicated with this to set the next value so we wouldn't get any duplicates in there. But we're going to try the on commit. Even though I've described it, I want to make sure you understand it by seeing how it works. So I click OK and then OK again and then create a new record. You notice there's no serial number in there. I can type whatever I want here, but until I commit that record, it's not going to update this value. So you could commit a record by hitting the Enter key on the keypad. You could switch to another record. You could switch to another layout. You could close the files. There's many ways to do it, or you could simply click anywhere where there's not a field, and as soon as you do that, it puts a serial number in there. Again, this is fine, but as far as relationships, you want all your relationships to work before you committed the record. So I don't really like this method, so I'm going to delete this record, go into Manage Database, and turn it back into that. I accidentally double clicked there. I want to click and then Type Ahead. Then we'll go into Options and we'll change it back to On Creation. So let's click OK again, OK again. And we really don't want this field on the layout. We don't want somebody clicking in here and trying to change it and it getting an error message and wondering why that is. There's no reason really to copy it. You might script it, but you can get that value with a script without it being on the layout. So we'll go into Layout Mode here. And remember, when you delete a field off a layout, that has nothing to do with the managed database or the schema. It's just this view. You can have the field on no layouts and the data is still there, especially since we're doing an auto enter. So let's go back into browse mode. And so what you want to remember here is, if you got this about serial numbers, that they uniquely identify a record, and you got options for prohibit modification and the validation options we set, and how to use the replace field contents on it. If you got all that, then you're doing fine. Don't worry about how it's going to be used in a relationship. All you need to know is that it will be used in a relationship, and we're just getting it in there right now since we're covering auto enter. And when we get to the intermediate tutorial, then you'll understand how serial numbers combine with relationships to make multi-table files.